Ladies, we know fitness is more important than ever as we hit midlife. But the advice out there is downright confusing. Should we be doing cardio, HIT, strength training, zone two, or all of the above? And what's the deal with zone two training? Hype or substance? Zone two is everywhere right now. It's the buzzword in fitness with influencers, podcasters, and trainers all talking about its benefits. But is it really the gold standard for improving metabolic and cardiovascular health? Or is there a smarter, more efficient way to get fit? Today, I'm bringing back Ulrich Dempfle, CEO and co founder of CAROL Bike, to cut through the noise. He's an expert in innovation and fitness technology, and he's worked with top researchers to bring reduced exertion, high intensity interval training, also known as REHIT, from the lab to your home. I personally use a CAROL bike, and I can tell you it's a total game changer for my fitness. In this episode, we're going to unpack the hype around Zone 2 training, discuss what is and how to do it right, and explore some of the common misconceptions. Plus, we'll dive into why REHIT workouts might be the faster, more effective solution for most of us. So, welcome back, Ulrich. I'm very happy to see you.
Thank you so much for having me.
So Ulrich and I got to have dinner together, which that doesn't happen too often, does it? With meeting my guests and then being able to actually go for dinner with them in
It was
Las
very nice.
Vegas at that. It was. We had a good Mexican dinner, had a really good conversation about all things hormones and fitness and the Carol bike. And I'm fascinated with the Carol bike, have been ever since I got one, because I don't know if you remember, probably not, because I know you do a lot of interviews. Ulrich, we talked about that in Vegas. Actually, it's just, I think I can't remember how many you said, but you did a lot of interviews last year.
Mhm. Yeah.
You're a popular guy. But I don't know if you remember, but have struggled my whole life with cardio of
Mm.
any sort. And it weighs on me because I'm a nutritionist and I'm very health conscious. But doing cardio is like nails down a chalkboard for me. Like I can go for a walk, that's fine. But actually, like getting the heart rate up and doing something that's going to cut, like,
Mm.
that it needs a lot of exertion. I'm terrible. I'm terrible. And I'm just going to be totally honest. Like, I feel like it's laziness. It's like, oh, why can't I do this? And then I got the Carol bike. And it just
Mm.
changed. I feel so much better about myself and my fitness now because I do it. And it's like, I feel like I'm getting so much out of it because of everything you taught me about it last year. Then now I don't have the
Mm.
guilt anymore. So it's been incredible. It's such a great addition to my fitness routine with somebody that doesn't want to spend the time doing cardio, but I want the benefits. And I get it now. So for those
That's
of the people,
wonderful to hear.
isn't it wonderful? Yes. And so for
Yeah,
those
absolutely.
of
Thank you so much.
yeah. And so for the ones that didn't hear, I'll link to that first episode in the show notes. I suggest everybody go back and listen to it. It's fascinating. You think like, oh, well, why do I really need to hear about this bike? That doesn't sound fascinating, Karen. It really is. I was like, the whole conversation that Ulrich and I had, I was so keen on hearing what he had to say. It was very, very interesting. So please go back, listen to that one. But for those that didn't listen to it or forgot about it, let's do just a little recap. What's the Carol bike? What makes it unique? And how does it deliver an effective workout in just 5 minutes?
Yeah, sure. So, CAROL Bike is the smartest and most efficient exercise bike. It has AI personalized workouts that are suitable for any age and fitness level. And especially, it has the REHIT workouts. So, that's reduced exertion, high intensity interval training workouts. Those can be done in as little as 5 minutes, and you only need to work hard for two 20-second sprints. And it creates a very, very potent training stimulus. And you asked already, how can you get an effective workout in just 5 minutes?
Mhm.
So the special thing about Rehit is even though you do only these two 20-second sprints, if you really push yourself to your limit during these short sprints. So go really to maximum intensity, like as if you were for a short moment in a fight or flight situation. Then your muscles release very, very powerful signaling molecules that tell your body to get fitter and stronger. And this signaling pathway can be really activated in a matter of seconds. And that makes it very, very special and very unique. And the CAROL bike and the AI have been developed to make it as safe and as easy and as comfortable as possible to push momentarily to your limits and to reach that maximum intensity. And so that makes REHIT a very simple, safe, and convenient and very, very effective and definitely like the most efficient cardio workout.
And what's the difference between rehit and hit? Just quickly, just so that people can get that
Yeah,
separated.
sure. So um, REHIT is basically built on HIT. HIT is high
Hmm.
intensity interval training. Many people will be familiar with it. And REHIT basically takes that concept to the next level and has been developed by scientists to make HIT more accessible for a wider population. So HIT is very effective, no doubt about it. And you would often do 5, 6, 7, 8, sometimes 10 intervals, 40, 50, 60 seconds long. And yes, you get great improvements in fitness, but it's also quite difficult to do for many people. So it's a really high level of
Hmm.
exertion, and therefore it's hard.
Hmm.
Now in REHIT, and that's really the important part, the reduced exertion, high intensity interval training. Scientists tried to titrate exactly what's the minimum amount of high intensity work, of maximum intensity work you need to trigger the adaptation pathway. So to create a really powerful training stimulus. And they found that two 20-second sprints are exactly enough to trigger that biological response. And if you do less, yes, then also it falls off. But if you do more, you don't get additional benefits. So it's enough. It's like switching a light switch. Yeah. Once you've pressed it and it's on, pressing it harder or longer just doesn't help anymore. So with REHIT, two 20-second sprints are enough to create this really powerful stimulus. And then your body will get fitter and stronger in the recovery between your workouts. You have to do them 2 to 3 times per week. And so it's a very, very efficient way. Well, it's the most efficient way to improve your cardiorespiratory fitness.
I don't know if I knew that that's all we had to do, and it wasn't more because I have been trying to work my way up a little bit and how many sprints I can do within that 5 minute period. Because there's the option on the Caro
Mm,
bike, which I know that I shouldn't be like, oh, no need to do more than I have to. I should, but that's now
yeah.
I'm going to keep that in mind when if I am not having, I don't have the energy maybe to do more than that. I can at least be like, hey, all it takes is two 20-second sprints, which you think, oh, 20 seconds, oh, so easy. I beg to differ. It can be tough.
And that's right. So, but the benefit is that it's so short that
Hmm.
you basically, as soon as you start, you see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes.
And if you, so you said in the beginning you struggled to do cardio and that it's a real,
Drag for
it's a
me.
difficult thing to get done.
Hmm.
You're in very good company. That's like 95% of the population in the US doesn't do
Wow.
enough cardio. And the number one reason is lack of time. And so this is something
Hmm.
that REHIT very, very well addresses and offers a very, very time efficient way to get your cardio done.
Hmm. My husband uses it religiously. He loves it, and he's a hockey player, and he just thinks that it's really, really helped his hockey and how he can play. And he's just like, he's 48 and he's like, I can't believe how much better my cardio is. And he's like, but he always tells me how much he feels like the Carol bike kicks his ass. He's like, man, you think it's going to be easy, but man, does it kick my ass when I do it? Because, so for
Mhm.
those listening, it's AI. And
Mhm.
so it's tracking how hopefully this is the correct way of saying it, how much exertion you're putting into it. And
Yes,
so
yes.
then it creates more of a resistance if it sees that
Right,
you are, or if that it's getting easier for you. If it's because you're wearing a
right,
heart
yes,
rate monitor. And
right.
so when it sees that it's
Mhm.
easier, it's going to put some more resistance. So it's constantly kind of challenging you. It never gets super easy.
That's right. That's
Is that
right.
right?
But
Okay.
that's absolutely. So, as you get fitter and stronger, Carol and the AI will make the workout more challenging, so that you benefit from the training, and so you basically it keeps you on your toes and gets you as fit and strong as you can get without hitting a plateau prematurely. So eventually, eventually we all kind of reach our potential,
Yes.
and then you wouldn't get much fitter further, or then you would have to train a lot longer to get like additional training stimulus. But with the AI and with REHIT, you can really, with very, very little time, get fantastic improvements. So I've improved my VO2 max by 50%
Wow.
within the first year of using the Caro bike. That's a phenomenal amount.
Yes.
And that is because the AI makes the workout more and more challenging as you get fitter and stronger. And other way around, and I've seen that now. I've had a skiing accident this winter and had to take a break. And then the AI also had to dial back and kind of zone
Ah.
into a new, lower and easier kind of resistance level for me. And I did that very rapidly so that I could also, like, once I could get back on the bike, I broke my collarbone, took a little bit, that I then could train again and progress and build up the fitness again.
Oh, so it could tell that you were basically injured in a sense, right? That you were
Yeah, exactly.
underperforming for your
Yes,
usual.
exactly. And then also dialed it back. So it's not only that the AI is mean and Carol just pushes you harder and harder.
It can
Um,
also be kind.
exactly. It also recognizes when you had to take a break or you had an injury or so, and it needs to dial back the resistance. So it's an intelligent system that creates an optimal workout for you every time.
hmm And I think a common misconception is that it's a Carol and a Peloton are the same. And I had that misconception until I spoke with you the first time. And because I really didn't know much about Peloton, but because they looked similar and they had the screens and it was this,
Yeah.
fancy bike, I just assumed this was the same sort of thing. And you were like,
No,
nope, not the same,
no,
because
it
it's
is.
not
It's quite
AI, is
different.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, Peloton, they have a great product, but it's more
Mhm.
around music and celebrity instructors and entertainment. And we're all about results and scientifically validated workouts to get you fit in as little time as possible.
Yeah, and it was created in the lab, and that's one of the reasons why you wanted to
Mm,
create the Carol bike. So it has had a lot of research behind it, and I think that
absolutely.
that's important for people to hear. Even my son, my 10-year-old son, he'll get on it sometimes, and he loves the feature that he can watch his YouTube videos while he's riding the bike. He looks hilarious too
I
because
understand. Yes,
he's too
absolutely.
short to actually sit on the seat, so he's got to stand up and he's trying to watch his YouTube video while he's bike riding. And you can do that. You can have
Awesome.
just normal bike rides without doing the rehit. So it has many
Yes.
different
Yes.
functions on it.
Mhm.
Okay, so let's get into the zone two, because it really is a buzzword right now. I'm not super into the fitness scene, and even I have been hearing so much about it where I'm like, okay, should I be doing zone two training? Like, what? Well, this is another thing that I got to add in. So, what exactly is zone two training?
So certainly it's very fashionable right now.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's in essence a cardio workout at a lower intensity level, an intensity level where you are still able to speak, to hold a conversation, even though maybe uncomfortably. And the intention for zone two training is that you train at the point where your muscles predominantly use fat as fuel rather than carbs, sugar, glycogen. And because it is fairly low intensity, so quite the opposite of rehit, zone two workouts have to be a lot longer to create a training stimulus.
Mm.
And so there are a few really big influencer, the leading proponents recommend sessions of 60 to 90 minutes, like 4 to 5 times a week. So to spend a lot of that in that low intensity. And the intention is to increase mitochondrial density and efficiency. So mitochondria are the powerhouses of your cell. And basically, the intention is to create more of those and make them work more efficiently. And then over time, you could increase the intensity at which you still use mainly fat as fuel. And then for athletes, it's really important that you increase your ability to clear lactate. So lactate is a
Mhm.
like the product when you do anaerobic exercise, and if lactate builds up too much, then that's what makes you fatigue. And so if you are more able to clear lactate, that allows athletes to race harder for longer. And yes, it just has become a very fashionable buzzword, and you hear a lot about it.
And is there science to back up these things with them when it comes to the mitochondria?
So there's
Hmm.
some scientific evidence. There's
Hmm.
also some weaknesses around
Hmm.
zone two training. Um, One problem is that there's no agreed definition. So even though many people talk about zone two training, they might actually talk about quite different things. And that is problematic because if you trained at a too low intensity, because you think like, oh, it's low intensity, and you're training at too low intensity, you literally will be wasting your time. And then some of the scientific evidence around some of the key recommendations that you hear. So, for example, oh, you should do 80% of your cardio in zone two and 20% in zone five. As far as I know, and as far as I've double checked that with the academics that we work with, there's just no scientific evidence for that.
Mm.
And then some of the obviously researchers do there's a lot of scientific research on all sorts of things, and so there is research that we can consult to see how effective zone 2 training is, and some of the data is just not very flattering at all. So if you did just zone 2 training and followed government guidelines, you did 150 minutes of cardio exercise each week, but you did this only at zone 2, 40% of people will not see an increase in their cardiorespiratory fitness. So again, that's actually problematic for a topic that gained so much attention
Hmm.
recently. Um, and then there's other things. Is it really easy? Low intensity sounds easy, but if you do 3 to 5 sessions, 60 to 90 minutes, that is really hard. So I've obviously tried that.
Hmm.
And in
Hmm.
fact, CAROL Bike is a great product to do, is a great piece of exercise equipment to do zone two training because we've got many features to help you
Yeah.
get it right. But it's hard work if you do the recommended amounts.
Oh my
And it's
God.
obviously not
So
time efficient.
boring.
We've spoken
Right.
already about it. Like 95% of Americans don't do enough cardio. And the number one reason is lack of time. That's what people tell us. We believe them.
Right. Yeah.
So
So to
hence,
ask that of people to do, we know most people won't do it.
yeah. And so therefore, is it the best strategy for most people? Maybe not.
And I don't know, you say that it's to tap into fat stores to burn, but really the way that works is you have to get through your glucose stores first. I guess maybe in 90 minutes you probably could because that's how long it could take for somebody to burn through their glucose. I don't even know. And
Mhm.
to start burning fat stores unless they're doing it in a fasted state and they haven't had any carbs in the daytime, and then they go out for their hour and a half walk at a good speed, at that zone two speed that's recommended. Maybe, yeah, then they could tap into fat stores.
So you're right in that if you want to do zone true training and you want to do it right, then one of the things to do is to do it in a fasted state, not
Okay.
after a sugary drink, not after a high carb meal. So you'd want to be yeah, relatively fasted, and then at a level of intensity where you mainly use what's called slow twitch fibers. So those are the types of muscles you use for lower intensity exercise, and then the others is fast twitch fibers for higher intensity exercise. And basically just go high enough to create a training stimulus, but not pushing in above that, where you then start metabolizing primarily carbs. And that's quite difficult to get right. And there's
Yeah.
some people, so there's a recommendation. You should be able to speak in whole sentences,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
able to sing, or it should be uncomfortable to speak in whole sentences. There's some kind of heuristics around what your heart rate threshold, what your heart rate should be, or at what power level it should be. But it's relatively difficult to find that point. And then you want to do it for a really long time. If you do that, then zone two has its place. Yeah.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
there's clearly, so this didn't come just out of a void. It's not that, you know,
Hmm.
certain influencers have just made it up. And it clearly has, for example, in the training program of elite athletes, it has very clearly a place. The question is just, should that kind of what's good for an elite athlete, is that good for everybody else? So if you, and because I know some of those people, I think I know how this actually happened. So if you look at Tour de France cyclists,
Yeah.
they train for 25 to 35 hours per week. And if you train for that amount of time, you can only do a certain amount of high intensity training each week. So you
Yes.
can do a maximum of maybe 5 to 7 hours at high intensity each week. If you did more, it would be clearly counterproductive. You would be overtraining. It's too much stress on the body, and it would be counterproductive. So once these top athletes have scheduled 5 to 7 hours of high intensity work in, they fill in the rest of their schedule with lower intensity work. And then you have still 20, 25 hours for zone two. And so it's right. They do 80/20, zone two to zone five. And but there's no scientific evidence behind that. That's just how it works for elite athletes and how they can make best use of their time. And unfortunately, that was popularized or has then been communicated to everybody that, oh, you should do 80% zone two, 20% zone five. And that's just, we think, the wrong advice for a broad
For the
audience. So,
masses.
yeah, exactly. Because if you're one of the 95% that struggles to find time for exercise, you should really focus on very time efficient workouts that give you maximum bang for your buck and give you the greatest fitness benefits for the time you invest, rather than spend all your time on a workout that requires many hours, and maybe doesn't deliver the same benefits, or quite certainly doesn't deliver the same benefits, certainly not in the time that you could get those benefits through other more efficient workouts.
Yeah. And I mean, you're not a midlife woman. And so if you could see the amount of information that's chucked at us women, I saw this really funny video, this woman making fun of this whole situation on Instagram the other day. And I actually posted it in my group. And I'm like, this is exactly what it is like. And I feel like I can point the finger at myself too. And this woman was talking about what we need to do as midlife women. It's just, she's like, you have to make sure that you eat this amount of protein. You want to make sure that you're weightlifting. Oh, but don't forget zone two training. And then don't forget that you have to intermittent fast, but then you have to also put in enough calories so that you're not wasting away and that your adrenals are okay. And that, oh, and then you got to use HRT, but don't just use HRT. Also do this. And it was just like on and on. And I'm like, oh my God, this is exactly what it sounds like out there. It's like we have to do all of these things and somehow fit it all in to these extremely busy schedules because we aren't just stay-at-home mothers anymore. Like most women are out there in the workforce and also raising children. And so to have this like thrown at you where it's like what you were just saying, like, oh, while it's most beneficial if you're fasted, it's like, okay, so now we can only do it at certain times of the day. We've got to carve out 90 minutes, but plus we have to weight lift because that's also extremely important for midlife. And then don't forget your hit and your rehit and your this and your that.
Yeah.
So it can get very overwhelming. It's just unrealistic to think that we can do this. And that's, I think, why I've just been like, I can't even when I hear about zone two training. I can't imagine doing that and trying to fit that into a schedule that I already have, like just a half an hour blocked out for fitness in the morning. How am I supposed to add that on? And
Yeah.
so how can the CAROL bike, how can we fit the zone two, the ideal type of zone two, I guess, would it be into the CAROL bike?
So zone two has a place
Hmm.
in your training routine if you have enough time. But I think it all comes then down to prioritization. And yes, that's in essence kind of we don't say zone two is bad.
Hmm.
Not at all. If you have time for it all, and that's what the zone two proponents basically say, is like, yeah, you just have to do it all.
Yeah.
Then perfect. Yeah. Yeah. Then you just do it all. You do zone two, you do hit, you do resistance, strength, mobility, flexibility, you
Yeah.
sleep.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't forget yoga. Don't forget.
Yes, exactly. All of that. But if you have to prioritize, then
Yes.
maybe you think more about kind of what are the things what should be your foundation. And I think the very first thing would be a form of cardio that gives you really maximum benefits in very, very little time. And so we believe that REHIT is ideal for that because you get fantastic improvements in cardiorespiratory fitness, in metabolic health, with 2 to 3 REHIT workouts that can be done in as little as 5 minutes. You only have to work hard for 2 20 seconds. And that achieves a lot in terms of cardiorespiratory fitness, your mitochondrial health, mitochondrial efficiency and density, all of that. And then, kind of the next thing I would layer in is not immediately zone two training, but then I would first prioritize, yes, some resistance training,
Hmm.
definitely.
Hmm.
Especially, so I don't know, I always feel a bit shy when I tell women what to do or what not to do because
That's okay.
well, yeah, but resistance training is really important for everybody, and I think especially when you approach perimenopause, it becomes harder to build muscle and to maintain muscle mass.
Yep.
And obviously, as a man, that's equally important. Is also for me. I love going to the gym. I love going to the gym with my 16-year-old son, and I see how easily he puts on muscle and how hard it is for me to put on muscle. that's just so age plays a role, and then gender and sex, of course, plays also a role. And so resistance training is super important. And that would
Hmm.
be the next thing I would layer in. And then, as you said, oh, don't forget the yoga. Like something for flexibility and mobility is also important. So kind of these are, um, I think, the key pillars of exercise, like cardio, strength, and mobility slash flexibility. And kind of a of each. So if you are able to cover those three bases, then zone two can offer something additional and give you an additional benefit in terms of mitochondrial function, in terms of mitochondrial health, because the mechanisms how REHIT improves your cardio fitness and your mitochondrial health is slightly different to how zone two does it. REHIT and high intensity work improves more mitochondrial efficiency.
Okay.
Zone two training improves more mitochondrial density. So, how many mitochondria do you have? REHIT is more how efficiently do they work? And so they're slightly different aspect. And so, therefore, if you have enough time,
Hmm.
by all means, you can add this in. But if you struggle to find time for workout and you're not one of the ones who can just do it all, then
Hmm.
it's certainly a good strategy. And we believe that's true for most to first focus on the things that are most efficient, gives you greatest return on the time and
Time
the effort you
invested.
invest, and then work your way down to other things that are also beneficial but that need more time, more effort. And then yeah, that's I think the main thing here. It's about prioritizing and what do you do first and kind of what is more optional.
If we were to layer this in, would it be most beneficial to do it on days where we do rehit? And so let's say I do my rehit, 5 minutes, and then from there I would just casually, ride the bike for an hour. Is that going to
Actually,
be more beneficial or doing it on a separate day is more beneficial?
so that's a way how you would not want to do it, because
Okay.
so the intention with zone two training is that you always stay under the threshold where your muscles switch to more carb and more glucose metabolism. And REHIT is super, that's why REHIT works. It's like super glycolytic. You mobilize lots of glycogen, empty out lots of glycogen stores. And that's kind of the magic how REHIT works. But that would, in a way, almost invalidate a zone two workout. So um, if you do if you want to do zone two and REHIT or HIT in one session, you should always start with zone two and then train for a long time in that period where you don't push into higher intensity. And then right at the end, you do like either HIT or REHIT or resistance training. Or ideally, you do it standalone on a day where it's zone two, and you don't do other workouts at that time, so that you stay in this zone where your muscles really mainly metabolize fat as fuel during the workout. And there, as we've said, that doesn't mean that it's more useful for fat loss. No, that's just not the case. It's just what your muscles burn in the moment. And your body is actually quite capable of then afterwards using different and kind of compensating for the fuel you use during the workout.
What about rehit? When's the best time? When could you get the most out of it? Is there things that you can do to stack in the proper order so that you get even
Mhm.
more out of those rehit workouts? Like, do we do this pre-lifting weights or post-lifting weights?
So um, I can tell you what works really well for me.
Yeah.
Um, and I know this works very well for many other of our users, of our riders, um, is to do strength and rehit on alternate days. So I do
Okay.
rehit always first thing in the morning, um, because then I don't have to think about it anymore. So every morning I get up and I do a short routine of a short workout routine. And one day it's cardio and that's rehit on a CAROL bike and it takes well, the whole thing, maybe 8 to 10 minutes. Um, and
Why so
I love
long?
to,
Like, do you just kind of pedal for a little bit and then do
well,
the
until I have
rehit?
my shoes on, I'm on the bike, I'm off the bike, I've put my chest belt on. So the
Yep.
workout
Okay.
itself you can do in 5 minutes, but
Okay.
I've kind of all in from getting out of bed until I'm in the
Like you
bathroom.
literally are getting out of bed and walking to the bike. Oh, how do you do that? Oh my goodness, without
Well,
coffee?
yes, yes, without coffee. That's
Wow.
right.
Okay.
Um, that's
Not going
just
to happen
how
in my world.
it's become second nature.
Yeah.
I guess that's really it. And honestly, I think that is really the secret to so that rehit is so time efficient and
Hmm.
that you get so really like noticeable results, like you feel the difference. That obviously helps, kind of makes it easy and motivating. But like the number one criteria for good workout is can you do it? Can you adhere to it? And I think habit and routine plays such a big role. And for me,
That's true.
I've managed to establish it that yes, every morning after I get up, I do a very short workout routine. And so one day it's cardio, and yeah, as little as 5 minutes, 5 to 8 minutes, I'm done. And then the other day, I do a short strength training regime. And there also, you can do very effective things that don't have to take a lot of time. So that's for me, I do five like full body exercises um, with heavy load. Yeah, with
Like how many reps would you say? Like, are you trying to get to 5, 6 reps before failure or more like eight to
no,
10
that's what I would do in the gym when I'm with my
with your
with my
teenage son?
son. Yeah, I don't have weights heavy enough at home that I can do it.
Okay.
So
Okay.
then I'm more kind of in the 10 to 15 rep range. But I still push until I can't anymore. And then I do only one, like a single set to failure of each of those five. So squats, push up, pull up, overhead press, and upwards row. Those are five big exercises. Do them as heavy as I can at home, and do a single set to failure. And that also takes like 12, 15 minutes. And that covers really a lot in terms of health benefits. With stretching and yoga, I'm a little bit worse. Like I do that not quite every day. I do it
Mhm.
from time to time, and I'd love to do a little bit more. But then, if you're really busy, like even see, I do this. This is my job. It's my profession,
Yeah.
and I still
Yeah.
fail with some things and can't do it quite as much as I would like to. But I still fit, say once a week, some mobility exercises in. And then you've covered really a lot.
Hmm. So efficient too.
Yeah, and so I think the key thing is really to find to create a system for yourself that makes it very, very easy to do and very easy to adhere to. And then I would almost like to say switch on autopilot and just let it become second nature. Same as you don't think about whether you brush your teeth in the morning or
Right.
you know
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
there are certain routines that
That are
have just become
non-negotiables.
exactly and exercise is so important and so powerful and so beneficial for your health that it actually deserves that status as well. that it becomes a fixed part of your routine. And with a workout that's 5 to 8 minutes, it can become that. With zone two training, now granted, there are people that love that, yeah, and who
Yeah.
get into
And have time for it.
yeah, no, and make time for it because
Hmm.
it was almost like meditative for them or so. Um, and that's great. Or if you know, if you otherwise watch Netflix on the sofa, if you want to watch next Netflix on your exercise bike and do zone two training in the background, that's also fine. So
Yeah.
it's how you can arrange it so that it becomes manageable and doable for you. That's the main thing,
Yeah.
that it becomes doable for you.
I invested in a stand-up desk with a
Mm.
walking treadmill for underneath the desk, and I would say that that is where my zone two is happening. It just kind of dawned on me because I was thinking to myself, "Oh, I'll never do zone two training.
Yeah,
Who's got time?"
maybe
Then
you
I'm like,
do it
"Wait a
already.
second, I do this already because I'll just walk
Yeah,
for
yeah.
90 minutes, no problem. And I don't even notice because I'm walking and I'm working at the same time. And then it beeps at me and it shuts off after 90 minutes. And I'm like, oh, there we go. I just walked for 90 minutes.
Yeah, Karen. So
So there, I'm doing
maybe
it.
you are part of the ones who can do it all and you didn't even notice.
I can do it all. Is there a difference between men and women in the research? There's very little research on women, granted.
Well,
But do you know if there is a difference between kind of what women should be doing versus men?
yes, I mean there are subtle differences, and you're entirely right. Most of the research, and it's a little bit unfair, um, has been done historically on men. That because yeah, you don't have to deal with a monthly cycle, and you don't have to deal with menopause. It's this kind of cleaner data. But that has changed, and the academics that we work with increasingly work with women or also exclusively with women to demonstrate that some of the research that has been done with men in the past also applies to women. And so apart from monthly cycle obviously has a big role, menopause has a big role, but women are also somewhat differently built than men when it comes to muscles. So women have more slow twitch fibers, which have which have already higher mitochondrial density than fast twitch type 2 fibers. And so slow twitch fibers have higher mitochondrial density than fast twitch fibers. And women have greater metabolic flexibility and a greater ability to oxidize fat during exercise than men. And so some of the argument why you should be doing zone two training and what like the specific benefits of zone two would be versus REHIT are less strong for women than they are for men. And so the question about priority
Mm-hmm.
is even more important for women than for men. Now, if you really do invest the time and you do these many hours per week of zone two training, women will also see an improvement. So it's not, oh, because our baseline is so much better, we can't improve. No, women can also improve. And so if you have the time, yes, there is something to be gained for it. But the baseline is a little bit different as for men, and therefore the question about what is zone two training's priority for women and what should be its place in the kind of a in the limited time you have available for workouts is even more important than for men. And so for example, the choice between should I do zone two or should I do resistance training, I think for women is even clearer. No, you first have to get resistance training in, and then you do zone two. And if you can do it all, perfect. But get your priorities right.
Okay, that's what I wanted to hear. I wanted to know, I wanted to prioritize because we can't, it's ridiculous how much we got to try and fit in a
Mm,
weekday, throughout the weekday and the weekends as well. And so knowing that, okay, this, if I have to choose, let's do this first, especially
absolutely.
if it's a time crunch, knowing that I can hop on the Carol bike for 5 minutes and get a lot out of it compared to, okay, now I got to go spend an hour and a half doing zone two. I like that I know what's going to be better for me. Or if I can quickly lift, do a 20-minute weightlifting session, that is what I should be choosing over zone two, which I think I have been. I think I do prioritize it that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so there we, I think it's important to just maybe remind people and also get some balance into the discussion because I think there's like maybe a cyclical thing, yeah, that some topics become more fashionable and then gain
Hmm.
traction. Some very big names put out big claims, big statements. Many others follow, and then you think like, oh yeah, yeah, I really have to do this zone two. And it's to be very clear, it's not that zone two is bad. It's just what is its priority and what should you be doing first if you have limited time available.
Yes. Okay. I like that. What are the just I think we discussed this in our first episode, but just to end on this note of the REHIT exercise, because I really feel like this is such an
Mhm.
important piece that so many women are missing. What are the long-term benefits that you're seeing from doing consistent REHIT workouts, two a
Yeah,
week
yeah, yeah. So
or three?
there's two main domains, and the overall list of benefits is very, very long, and it just reflects how beneficial and important exercise is. But the two main things are one, an improvement in your cardiorespiratory fitness. So if you do REHIT workouts 2 to 3 times a week, you will see a 12% improvement in your cardiorespiratory fitness, in your VO2 max, in only 8 weeks. And that's on average over basically all our users and all the
I
scientific
definitely
studies
did. Yeah. Yeah.
that you see. And then it continues further. So over 20 weeks, you see around a 20% improvement. And for many people, the progress goes even further until you've reached your potential. And so for me, this was in the first year an improvement of 50% of my VO2 max. And VO2 max is really the most important health marker. So, and I say this with kind of intentionally because it is the health marker with the strongest correlation and which is the strongest predictor of life expectancy.
Oh,
And
wow.
so, for example, 10% improvement in VO2 max means for most people, 2 years of additional life expectancy. So, with very little time, you can really achieve a very substantial improvement to your health, your longevity, and you're also just more capable. And yeah, being fitter is, I think, your quality of life improves.
Yeah.
So that is one big reason why it's a good idea to do this. The other is around metabolic health. So and there actually 3 rides per week would be better, yeah, because this is a slightly shorter effect. But studies have shown that your risk of developing metabolic diseases, and so that's type 2 diabetes, that's the big one, drops by 62% in only 8 weeks. So again, a
Wow.
very pronounced impact, a great health improvement with very, very little time per week. So as little as 15 minutes per week, you get a risk reduction that you'd otherwise only see from taking prescription medication like metformin. So those are the two big ones. There's a long, so it's good for your sleep, it's good for your mental health, it's good for your brain. It's
Mhm.
really, because exercise is so positive and rehab is like really concentrated exercise, you get very substantial benefits in very, very little time.
Wow. And I don't know if you know this, but women, when they reach menopause and they lose their essential hormones, almost across the board, they all will at some point develop some degree of insulin resistance, and many will develop type 2 diabetes without changing their diet.
Mhm.
And so we become way more susceptible. I just saw a woman yesterday who was perfectly eating and had been for years and years and years. She was in menopause for 10 years. She was doing carnivore. She was intermittent fasting 24 to 48 hours a week. She was insulin resistant. Her hemoglobin A1C was 5.9. Her blood sugar, her fasting blood sugar was 98. And she's like, "Why? Why is this? I don't understand. I've never had a blood sugar problem." I said, "Look, I see this every single day. And this is what happens when we lose these hormones is we can develop type 2 diabetes because these hormones can really help us. We know that the number one killer of both men and women, cardiovascular disease.
Mhm.
And so knowing that in 2 months it reduced that risk by 62%, that's phenomenal.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
And it's also
really phenomenal.
this is not something that's just relevant for fringe group. This is for like the majority of the population. I don't have the exact stats now at hand, but the percentage of the population that's like pre-diabetic and that will become diabetic sooner or later without intervention is really shocking.
It is.
Exercise is a very, very powerful intervention, and REHIT just makes it so much more, yeah, doable and something that's actually achievable and then delivers, yeah, very, very substantial improvements and risk reductions in very, very little time.
All right. Where can people find more information about the Carol bike? And I do have to say, just for everybody, when you do purchase a Carol bike, you get online. I don't know if this is still happening. I should probably have checked that
It
with you
does,
first.
it does,
Okay.
it does. Yes, yes,
You
yes.
get online with a Carol expert who walks you through all of this, which I found to be incredibly interesting and it really helped because I got the Carol bike and I'm like, okay, well, now what? And he went over everything with me and explained how the bike worked and how to use it and the benefits of it. And that's a really nice touch. And I really appreciate that you guys do that.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, and for those listeners of yours, those in your audience who might consider it or who think, oh, is this the right thing for me? You can talk to the people like we call them fitness advisors. They're trained, they're qualified with a master's in exercise physiology. Also beforehand, so you can have a good informed discussion with them beforehand to see whether Carol Bike, whether Rehit might be the right approach for you and a good tool to help you get your cardio exercise and your cardio workouts and your cardio fitness up. We do have, of course, on our website, there's a lot of information. That's carolbike.com.
Yeah.
So you'll see information about all the research on there, about all the workout options, what else you can do with a Carol bike. You can follow us on the socials at the Carol Bike. That's across all platforms. You can talk to us. That's great. Yeah, schedule a book a consultation, and talk to our team. And you can, in fact, you can try Carol Bike. We don't have showrooms, but if you do purchase a bike, we offer a industry leading we call it risk-free trial. So if you purchase a bike, you have 100 days to see whether Rehit and whether Carol Bike, yeah, whether you like it, whether you see the benefits, and whether you can adhere to it, whether you can stick to it. And 100 days is really, that's enough to get a clear answer on all three of those questions. Most people, thankfully, do like it, and they say yes,
They do,
that worked
yeah.
really well for us. But if for whatever reason you don't, it happens from time to time. That people before they have specific health issues or something, yeah, circumstances change. If you feel it's not for you, then we also pick it up and you get a full refund.
Wow. And you guys can get $100 off your Caro bike with coupon code HORMONE. I'm going to link to it in the show notes as always. Um, Thank you, Ulrich, for coming back on the show and breaking this down. I feel better now. I always do when I talk to you. I'm like, okay, I'm doing good. I'm doing the right things. So I
I'm so
appreciate
glad
it
to hear.
because I think it's a confusing world out there right now when it comes to what should we be doing when it comes to fitness. So I feel like now people have an understanding of what to prioritize and then what you can, layer on top of that for more benefits.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.